Tonight, we're reporting on the international chaos that defines Trump's January, the president repeatedly threatening a once unthinkable step, attacking our European allies or invading Greenland, all so that the U.S. might take that country by force, something you may recall from recent Putin foreign policy. Now, after major pushback, which includes U.S. lawmakers condemning Trump's war talk, European leaders fighting fire with fire, they've talked about an economic bazooka to go back and hurt the U.S. for Trump's sort of economic war of choice. And then the mounting tremors in the financial markets this week, the biggest stock drop in months, which then rebounded today. With all this going down, Trump is backing off. He says he's taking military action off the table as he arrived and then spoke and at times ranted at foreign leaders and bankers at the Davos summit in Switzerland. All of this leading to backtracking that international outlets call a climb down from his threats. So it's a lot. And this reflects a common Trump dynamic. The bluster, the sweeping claims, the threats to use basically unilateral, unreviewable powers that any president has, but few have used like this. And that obviously requires people and countries to react only after much effort, which might have been spent on other things, and market jitters and the rest I just mentioned, only after all that to try to just get Trump to stop doing the thing that so many people think is damaging. In this case, getting him to retract, trim, or outright surrender this threat of a war with Europe that most Americans are like, are you serious? Now, on tariffs, they call this whole dance taco. Trump always chickens out. The Greenland fight comes with fresh concerns about not only Trump's policies, right, which is a fancy word for starting a war. And does anyone in this country want him to start that war or threaten to start that war? And how long would Americans really sit by and support an invasion or war with allied European countries? That's the policy. But I can tell you tonight, we are seeing fresh concerns about Trump's temperament, his acumen, and his mental acuity. And I am reporting this for you, so I will report on what is driving these concerns, how Trump is acting, as well as who we're hearing this from. Sometimes it's blind quotes, people who don't want to be quoted because they don't want the retaliation this administration so often dishes out. Internationally, there are concerns about 3 more years of this and how to manage it. And there are people who've seen Trump up close and in private. His first-term White House lawyer, Ty Cobb, making a bunch of headlines today for news that he shared last night, so that sort of broke on the beat. Mr. Cobb sharing with us his view of what he sees as his former boss, Donald Trump's cognitive decline.
I think there's been a significant decline. You know, he's always been driven by narcissism, but I think the dementia and the cognitive decline are, palpable, as do many experts, including many physicians. I don't think there's anybody outside of the United States who believes that Trump is sane.
Outside the United States is the audience Trump engaged with today. Mr. Cobb saying that last night, as we all knew, the president was headed for a high-stakes summit amidst all of this Greenland talk. And Trump had an odd outing today, even for him. He clearly confused Greenland and Iceland repeatedly. That drew notice and concern from independent observers about his acuity, as well as more broadly the ongoing, apparently impulsive, volatile, and disinhibited behavior. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't happen in a vacuum, no matter what people think of Donald Trump, his policies, or these recent threats for war. We have a particular political system in America, and for many reasons, it favors incumbents and seniority. Officials in both parties in this country have been seen living up all the way to their demise and dying in office. That's true from the courts to the Congress. Trump is the third president in our modern era to face questions of age and fitness, based on the actual age of the person, how they seemed in public, not a medical diagnosis, and any visible conduct. He is not immune or separate or distinct from how other presidents in both parties have faced that. And this is a democracy where public scrutiny comes with the job. Foreign leaders, U.S. counterparts, they're all assessing Trump as he goes over time, like the questions faced by the presidents you see on your screen. This isn't off limits by precedent. And then separately, when it comes to how credible these concerns are and whether this is an inbounds thing that you ask about a sitting president. Well, Trump and his team, of course, pressed exactly these types of questions on Joe Biden in 2024. Indeed, ultimately, for a host of reasons related to conduct, age, and political viability, he was the latest candidate to ever abandon the presidential race as an incumbent. Trump's polling, though, is also slumping lower than most second-term presidents. There's a growing protest movement at home. He's got a midterm panic, and I actually have a report on that later tonight about how he's trying to game that and why it may not work. But all of that brings me to what I'm showing you now. Trump's volatile conduct, lashing out on the world stage, showing that apparent confusion. This is a core part of these wider problems that he's facing in a rocky term, to say the least, that is heading towards midterms and his lame duck era.
We have pretty much a concept of a deal.
A deal of ownership, a deal...
Well, it's a little bit complex, but we'll explain it down the line. People thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. Without us, right now, you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. Emmanuel Macron, I watched him yesterday with those beautiful sunglasses. Canada lives because of the United States. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. Very smart man said, he's our daddy. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money.
Correction. The markets did not dip because of Iceland. Another correction. U.S. allies did not abandon the U.S. on any policy related to Iceland. And another correction. Iceland has not cost the U.S. money. Now, the White House could say Trump misspoke. In context, he was talking about this ongoing Greenland policy, and that's clearly what he meant. They could say he's impacted, like many people, even younger than him, by a grueling travel schedule, jet lag and the like. But instead, I can report for you tonight, the White House is showing they clearly fear any crack or acknowledgement of a rational discussion of what everyone just heard. Instead, they're claiming Trump was making up a new nickname for Greenland on the spot. And that, confusingly, his new nickname happens to overlap with the Nordic country of Iceland, but is, Trump aides say, actually his new freezing cold term for Greenland. It's cold, and he calls it Iceland. What's next? Is the White House going to claim Trump was really just maybe referring to Iceman, the forthcoming Drake album? These are two men who are facing criticism. They've lost a step and don't have the standing they once did. But that would be silly, just as it is silly to claim that he was talking about an Iceland and not clearly confusing the name of a country that he yesterday was threatening to invade, and today, 3 times over, can't name the country. The White House defense is silly and laughable, but this is no joke for the rest of the world. Not when Putin's Kremlin is cheering on an American president using time, energy, and potentially military power to undercut American interests and attack our European allies, and do so in a way that helps Russia, hurts the U.S. and Europe, and is basically inexplicable, which is why people are reaching for other types of analysis. Like, is there some other reason to undercut America? Is there corruption? Is there a slipping of the overall mental acuity, as his own former aides have questioned? The Russia problem is being identified right there by the conservative Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch's paper, a reminder that if you actually look at different sources where people who care about things, be it American safety and national security, or the public markets, or the bond market, or international reality as we know it, it's not such a clean picture of, oh, everyone defends Trump on everything. Because when certain things are this indefensible, you actually find people don't defend them. And Trump backs down tonight, even as he can't quite name which country he is backing down from invading. I want to bring in Ambassador McFaul. He was the Obama ambassador to Russia in that administration. He's at Stanford. He's the author of Autocrats versus Democrats. Ambassador, it could be laughable if the stakes weren't high. Your view of the policy problem here, and does it matter if a sitting president, in this case Donald Trump, seems to be that confused about which country he might invade and how to explain himself?
Well, Ari, first I want to start with the good news that you already alluded to. You and I are not talking about the probabilistic how many hours or days it's going to take for us to invade Greenland. That's good news. We're not talking about wasting billions and billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars to purchase Greenland. That's good news. And third, to a point you just alluded to as well, this happened not because of what Trump told us a week ago, that the only check on his power is his own moral conscience. He said that recently in an interview. This happened because there were constraints on his power. The Europeans pushed back, the bond markets pushed back, Congress, at least some of them said things, and the media, including your network. Thank you for devoting so much time to this issue, because the American people then got involved. We saw the polling numbers. Overwhelmingly, people thought this was a bad idea.
And I'll let you finish, but a lot of what we reported was how many different experts across the spectrum in the world allied with U.S. national security over the last many decades thought it was a bad idea. I mean, we didn't do some bulletin saying, stop. But we reported on the reality that this wasn't a 60-40 issue. It seemed like a 95-5 issue, unless you were maybe in the U.S., but working. You know, I'm sure people at the Russian embassy and others sympathetic to that domain, and they have a right to speak. But other than them, we didn't find a lot of people thinking this was good for U.S. security.
Correct. And you had me on a lot. I said it's the worst idea in American history.